Steel doesn't scream until the moment it does. 1 second, it's just another drive, music playing, mind wandering, nothing unusual. The next, everything shatters, metal folding, glass exploding, silence replaced by a sound people remember for the rest of their lives. These are the moments that turn normal days into memorials. Let's talk about them. 1. On April 28, 2023 in Folly Beach, South Carolina. The music had faded, but the joy hadn't. A wedding had just wrapped up, hugs, laughter, the last photos under string lights. Samantha Miller, still glowing in her wedding dress, climbed into a small golf cart beside her new husband, Arik Hutchinson. They weren't done celebrating. It was one of those perfect nights you don't want to end. She reportedly said she didn't want the night to be over. It ended anyway. Down the same road, a car barreled forward at nearly 3 times the speed limit. Witnesses had seen the driver drinking earlier, slurred speech and stumbling, the kind of red flags that flash brightly in hindsight. But hindsight doesn't stop headlights. The impact was catastrophic. The car smashed into the golf cart with such force that bodies were thrown into the darkness. Samantha died instantly. Her wedding dress, hours earlier a symbol of promise, was torn and stained on asphalt. Arik survived, but barely. Broken bones, brain trauma, and internal injuries. He later stood in court, still healing, still grieving, saying he wished he had seen it coming so he could have taken the full impact himself. The driver eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to prison. Apologies were offered. Promises of change were made. But apologies don't rewind a wedding night. One reckless decision erased a future before the honeymoon even began. Drunk driving doesn't ruin lives later. Sometimes it ends immediately. 2. Once, a guardrail became a spear-on. November 1st, 2016 in McMinn County, Tennessee. 17-year-old Hannah was driving home after Halloween festivities. Nothing wild, no racing, just a quiet road and the familiar feeling of heading back after a long day. Then something small went wrong. The car drifted slightly. She corrected it, but the tires caught awkwardly. The vehicle slid toward the median and into a guardrail, the exact object designed to reduce harm. But this guardrail didn't crumple, it attacked. Instead of folding and absorbing the crash, the metal rail pierced forward like a lance. It sliced through the front of the car, tore through the driver's side, and fatally impaled her. The vehicle dragged the twisted metal for nearly 20 feet before coming to a stop. Her passenger walked away with minor injuries. Let that sink in. The crash itself might have been survivable. Investigations later revealed that the specific guardrail model had known concerns. It had even been removed from certain approved safety lists shortly before the crash. A device meant to save lives became the weapon. Her father, an EMT who had seen countless wrecks, was devastated and furious, especially when the state later sent a bill for thousands of dollars to replace the very guardrail that killed his daughter. Sometimes tragedy isn't just fate. Sometimes it's failure. 3. On October 23, 2015 in southwestern France, a bus filled with retirees rolled along a narrow countryside road. Friends were chatting and couples were holding hands, a peaceful trip through vineyards and sunlight. Coming the other way was a logging truck, heavily loaded and carrying a tank of gasoline. On a curve, something went wrong. Maybe the load shifted. Maybe control slipped for just a second too long. The truck jackknifed and slammed head-on into the bus. The crash was really violent, but survivable. Then, the fuel tank ruptured. Gasoline spilled beneath the bus and ignited almost instantly. Flames raced upward, engulfing the vehicle in seconds. Smoke swallowed the aisle, and heat locked passengers into their seats. Emergency hammers were useless against suffocating smoke and unbearable fire. Out of roughly 50 people on board, only a handful escaped. Inside, it became a furnace. Tires burst and windows were shattered. Screams vanished into flame. More than 40 lives were lost that day, one of the deadliest road disasters in France in decades. The road hadn't looked dangerous. That's the part that lingers. If you're still here, take a second to like the video and share it. These aren't just stories for shock value. They're reminders. Every single one of these tragedies started as something normal. Now let's keep going. 4. It was bright outside on August 4th, 2022 in Los Angeles. Traffic was flowing normally. People trust green lights the way we always do. A pregnant woman drove toward an intersection with her partner and their 11-month-old baby in the light had been red for seconds, that felt like eternity. The impact just looked like an explosion. The Jaguar was ripped apart. Fire erupted instantly, consuming multiple vehicles. Gas tanks ignited and debris rained down across the intersection. 6 people were killed in less than 5 seconds, including the unborn child. Data later showed the driver had pressed the accelerator in the final moments. Whether it was recklessness or a claimed medical episode, the result was the same. An entire family was gone. An intersection that once felt ordinary became permanently haunted. 5. At Tishomingo, Oklahoma, on March 22, 2022, 6 teenage girls piled into a small Chevy Spark during lunch break. Music was playing and laughter echoing. The kind of careless joy that belongs to teenagers who believe tomorrow is guaranteed. They approached a notoriously confusing road called the Y. They stopped, looked, and they began to cross. A massive semi-truck hauling rock thundered toward them. There was no time. It crushed the tiny car and pushed it nearly 300 feet, metal folded like paper. A bright pink steering wheel cover remained one of the only recognizable pieces inside the wreck. All 6 girls died. The truck driver survived. Investigators found no wrongdoing on his part. Physics had simply chosen the smaller vehicle to absorb everything. 6 empty desks at school, 6 families shattered. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't speed, it's size. 6. A farmer's market turned into chaos. On July 16, 2003 in Santa Monica, California. Arizona Avenue had been closed to traffic for a farmer's market. There were colorful tents, fresh fruits, and families enjoying sunshine. Nearly 9,000 people filled the area believing barricades meant protection. An elderly driver approached the blocked street and clipped a stopped vehicle. He panicked. Instead of braking, he pressed the accelerator. The car swerved around barriers and surged into the crowd at terrifying speed, plowing through stalls and bodies for nearly 1,000 feet. Shoes flew and produce exploded into the air. People were thrown aside. By the time it ended, 10 people were dead already and more than 70 injured. There was no alcohol, drugs, or mechanical failure, just confusion and catastrophic consequences. Barricades were later reinforced. Too late for the victims. 7. Just after midnight, a Tesla Model Y lost control and slammed into a guardrail and concrete structure at high speed. This happened on October 24, 2024 in Toronto. The crash itself was survivable, then the lithium-ion battery ignited. Electric vehicle fires burned differently, hotter, faster, more intense. Within seconds, flames engulfed the car, smoke filled the cabin, and power failed. Electronic door locks stopped working. Manual releases existed, but in chaos, heat, and choking smoke, seconds disappeared. 4 young passengers couldn't escape. One passerby smashed a rear window and pulled a survivor from the flames. The question lingered across the city: how does a car praised for safety become a steel trap when electricity vanishes? Technology saves lives, until it doesn't. 8. A truck carrying molten asphalt in Cancun, Mexico lost control, triggering a violent chain reaction crash involving multiple vehicles. One car flipped. Then came the unimaginable part. Boiling asphalt poured into the wreckage like liquid fire. The occupant was trapped beneath the vehicle as the scalding material engulfed her. Rescue teams struggled to reach her due to the extreme heat. She was pulled out alive, severely burned, and transported to the U.S. She fought for 6 days, then she passed away. Not from speed, not from reckless driving, but from being buried by the very substance that builds roads. 9. A church bus carrying children home from an amusement park on May 14, 1988 in Kentucky drove through the night. 63 kids, laughter fading into sleep. A pickup truck driven by a severely intoxicated man traveled the wrong way on the interstate. The head-on collision ruptured the bus's fuel tank near the front door. Fire exploded through the entrance and raced down the aisle. There was no rear emergency exit. Children scrambled over seats in total darkness and smoke. 27 people died. Most of them are children. The crash prompted major changes in bus safety standards, relocated fuel tanks, better exits, and fire-resistant materials. But reforms don't resurrect lives. 10. A woman drove along a narrow mountain road she loved in Arizona. Quiet, beautiful, and no guardrails. No margin for error. At some point, the vehicle drifted and plunged nearly 1,000 feet down a jagged cliff. Rescuers found the wreckage hours later. She didn't survive. Her small dog did. The only reason authorities located her quickly was her Apple Watch's crash detection feature. Technology couldn't save her life, but it made sure she wasn't lost forever. 11. On July 21, 2024 in West Yorkshire, England, a family drove home after a peaceful day out. The parents were seated in front, two daughters laughing in the back seat. A motorcycle attempting to overtake crossed into oncoming traffic at the worst possible moment. The collision was absolute. 6 people lost their lives, the family and the 2 riders. Back home, an 11-year-old girl who hadn't joined the trip received the kind of phone call no child should ever get. Her entire immediate family, gone in seconds. There's no speeding ticket that measures that kind of loss. 12. On November 2nd, 2021 in Las Vegas, a woman drove home late at night, her dog beside her, minutes from safety. Behind her, a Corvette accelerated down a city street at 156 miles per hour, more than double survivable speed. From behind, immediate inferno was ignited. Flames engulfed her SUV within seconds. She and her dog were trapped. The driver of the speeding car survived. One choice at full throttle erased a life that had already survived war as a child refugee and was days away from major milestones. Speed doesn't just win races, sometimes it ends futures. Every single one of these tragedies started the same way: a normal day, a routine drive, and a harmless plan. The road doesn't announce when it's about to become deadly, so slow down. Wear the seatbelt and respect the light. Double-check the blind spot, because none of these people knew they were minutes away from becoming a headline. If this video made you think, even a little, subscribe, share it. Let awareness travel faster than recklessness. The road is unforgiving, but our choices don't have to be.